You want respect, yet people ignore your words, dismiss your presence, and treat your ambitions as if they were fantasies. Why? Because in the real world, respect is not granted through kindness, truth, or potential. It is granted only to those who possess power. And until you acquire it, every demand you make is nothing more than a whisper in a storm. Today, we expose the psychology behind why the powerless are condemned to be overlooked, and how the strategic mind reverses this fate. Look around you. Every room you enter is shaped by invisible hierarchies, some ancient, some newly formed, all governed by a single principle: power commands, weakness negotiates. People claim to respect virtue, honesty, and humility, but in their private decisions, they bow only to strength. This is the contradiction of human nature, the hypocrisy that defines every office, every household, every nation. In this video, we are not here to comfort your illusions. We are here to dismantle them. You will learn why admiration follows power like a shadow, why boldness is respected even when undeserved, and why the powerless drown in advice while the powerful dictate reality. If you desire a life where your voice carries weight, where silence becomes a weapon and presence becomes influence, then you must first understand the machinery that creates respect and the psychology that enforces it. You have been told your whole life that respect comes from being a good person, that if you are honest, patient, and kind, people will naturally value you. But look at your own experience. Did your virtue ever stop someone from dismissing you? Did your honesty ever prevent someone from exploiting your patience? Did your moral goodness ever shield you from the dominance of someone stronger? Of course not. Because in this world, character without power is decoration nice to look at, but ultimately irrelevant. People admire goodness only when it stands on a foundation of strength. Without power, even your noblest qualities are reduced to background noise. Consider ancient Rome. Cicero was brilliant, virtuous, and deeply respected for his oratory. Yet, when the tides of power shifted, his eloquence could not save him. The men who controlled the legions controlled his fate. It wasn't his character that determined his destiny, it was the absence of power. And the world remembers his words. But it remembers the swords of his enemies far more clearly. Now ask yourself, how many times have you relied on your intentions, believing they would speak for you? How often have you assumed people should respect your values simply because they're sincere? And what did you receive in return? Silence, indifference, perhaps even humiliation. The truth is simple. People respond to strength long before they respond to virtue. This is not cynicism, it is observation. Psychologists call it the dominance heuristic, the subconscious tendency to respect and follow individuals who project authority, confidence, and capability. Human beings are wired to detect strength, just as wolves sense the alpha without needing a vote. You can test this in any workplace. Speak softly, apologize often, hesitate, and you will become invisible. But enter with calm certainty, as if you already know the path, and simply need others to walk it. And suddenly people adjust their tone. They speak more carefully. They measure their words. They offer respect not because of who you are, but because of what they sense you can do. Character shapes your inner world. Power shapes the world outside you. And it is the outer world that decides how others treat you. Look at rulers throughout history. Many were far from virtuous, yet they commanded respect that philosophers and saints never achieved. Alexander burned cities, but inspired loyalty that shaped nations. Napoleon rewrote Europe through pure force of will. Even the Medici rose not because they were morally superior, but because they controlled the levers of finance, culture, and influence. Power reframes your weaknesses as eccentricities. It turns your flaws into stories of resilience. It makes people reinterpret your silence as wisdom, your certainty as leadership, your ambition as destiny. And without power, your strengths become irrelevant. Your intelligence becomes a threat. Your humility becomes a signal of submissiveness. Your loyalty becomes a resource others extract at will. You may want the world to value your heart, but the world is more concerned with its own interests. People do not respect you because you are good. They respect you when being good to you benefits them. Power creates that benefit. Power makes your presence costly to ignore. Ask yourself, when you enter a room, do people adjust themselves? Do they straighten their posture, lower their voice, become more cautious with their words? Or do they continue as if nothing changed? Respect is not about who you are. It is about who they believe you have the ability to become. You don't need to dominate others, but you must show that you are not easily dominated. You don't need cruelty, but you must reveal that you are not a safe target. You don't need to be feared, but you must be known as someone whose boundaries are not cheap, whose time is not free, and whose voice carries weight. Power is not always force. Sometimes it is composure. Sometimes it is competence. Sometimes it is the strategic silence that makes others question your depths. But whatever form it takes, power must exist before respect appears. Character is admired only after strength is established. You have been taught to value effort, to believe that trying hard is noble, that if you persist long enough, people will eventually admire your dedication. But look closely at the world you live in. Look at how people actually behave, not how they claim to behave. Do they reward the one who tries, or the one who wins? The truth is sharp and cold. Human beings bow to results, not intentions. Outcomes shape reputations, not hours of labor. And those who fail, no matter how valiantly, are remembered only as warnings, not inspirations. Consider the fate of failed generals. They may fight bravely, command loyally, and sacrifice everything. But if they lose the battle, history records them as incompetent. Their intentions are buried under the weight of defeat. Meanwhile, the victor, perhaps ruthless, perhaps lucky, earns respect simply because he stands on the winning side. Julius Caesar knew this well. When he crossed the Rubicon, many in Rome condemned him. But when he emerged victorious from the civil war, those same voices transformed. Suddenly, his ambition became vision. His rebellion became courage. His hunger for power became destiny. His outcome rewrote the meaning of his actions. Ask yourself, how often have you worked tirelessly, hoping others would notice? How many times have you believed your effort should speak for itself? And what did that belief earn you? People saw your struggle. They saw your sweat, but they waited for the result before they decided your worth. This is not cruelty, it is psychology. Humans are drawn to success because it signals survival. It signals competence. It signals strength. When someone produces results, they are seen as reliable, resourceful, and worthy of respect. When someone merely tries, they are seen as well-meaning, but ultimately replaceable. Look at the workplace. Two employees work equally hard. One produces visible outcomes, signed contracts, solved problems, measurable gains. The other produces invisible effort, late nights, long emails, endless attempts. Who receives praise? Who receives promotion? Who becomes influential? The one who delivers. Effort may exhaust you, but outcomes elevate you. And here lies the uncomfortable truth. The world does not care how difficult something was for you. It cares about what you managed to achieve despite the difficulty. Even in relationships, this dynamic governs silently. You may invest time, emotional labor, and endless patience. But if the relationship does not thrive, if there is no stability, no progress, no growth, your partner does not remember your effort. They remember the lack of outcome. They remember what didn't work. People measure reality through results, because results provide certainty. Effort offers only hope, and hope is too fragile a currency in a world built on competition. Think of the great strategists. They never boasted about how hard they worked. They showcased what their work produced. Leonardo da Vinci, despite his countless unfinished projects, earned reverence for the results he completed, not the ideas he abandoned. Sun Tzu was respected for victories, not theories. Even the Florentine rulers who read political philosophy cared only about one thing: what a decision would accomplish, not how difficult it was to execute. Now, shift the lens onto your own life. How many goals have you justified by saying, "At least I'm trying"? How many excuses have you made, hoping others would validate your effort as if it were equivalent to achievement. But ask yourself honestly, did it ever work? Did people treat you differently because of your effort alone? You already know the answer. And here is the opportunity hidden inside this brutal truth. If outcomes dictate respect, then the path to power becomes clearer. You must stop scattering your energy and start delivering results that are impossible to ignore. You must stop explaining how hard you're working and start showing what your work produces. You must shift from effort-based identity to outcome-based authority. Because when you win, even once, people reframe your entire character. Your past failures become learning phases. Your ambitions become potential fulfilled. Your confidence becomes earned. And your presence becomes influential simply because it carries the weight of proof. The world respects outcomes not because people are cruel, but because outcomes reveal who is capable of shaping reality. Have you ever entered a room and felt a shift in the air? A subtle tension, a quiet deference, a pause in conversation as eyes flick toward one person and linger. That is not chance. That is power. Not merely the kind that comes from title or wealth, but the kind that radiates an invisible force that shapes behavior before a word is spoken. This is the psychological aura of authority, and it is far more potent than arguments, logic, or pleading. Ask yourself, when you speak, do people lean in or do they ignore you? Do they adjust their tone unconsciously? Do they hesitate, fearing misstep? Or do they speak over you, challenging every claim without hesitation? History is littered with examples of individuals who understood this instinctively. Consider Queen Elizabeth I. Her subjects knew she commanded more than armies. They felt the weight of her presence. Ambassadors did not merely negotiate with her, they tread carefully, anticipating not only her words but the authority she projected. It was not fear alone. It was a recognition of influence. The subtle recognition that this woman could make or break their world with a single decision. Her aura did the work her sword could not. Or look to Napoleon. He did not rely solely on strategies or tactics. He relied on presence. His officers obeyed before orders were given because they could feel the force of his certainty. His aura demanded alignment, creating compliance as naturally as gravity pulls an object toward the earth. He manipulated reality not just through action, but through the perception of action yet to come. Now, consider your own environment. Do people follow because they are inspired or because they sense that not following is a mistake? Do they obey because you asked or because your presence signals consequences invisible yet undeniable? Most fail to notice that power operates silently, subtly. It whispers rather than shouts, and it molds behavior long before commands are issued. Psychology explains this in fascinating terms. Humans are wired to recognize authority subconsciously. Even small cues, posture, tone, timing, trigger compliance. The taller, calmer, and more deliberate individual becomes a signal of capability. The confident pause, the quiet observation, the controlled gesture, they all form a halo that people cannot ignore. It is the aura of someone who can act decisively, and humans instinctively respect decisiveness. Consider an office scenario. Two colleagues present ideas. One speaks nervously, fidgets, and hurries through sentences. The other stands firm, speaks slowly, and lets words land with weight. Which idea do people take seriously? Which speaker becomes a subtle center of authority, regardless of the merit of their argument? The difference is not skill, it is presence. It is aura. Even in politics, aura trumps logic. A leader who exudes certainty and decisiveness gains followers, even if their policies are flawed. Voters instinctively obey the signals of dominance and stability, trusting presence over nuance. This is why great orators, commanders, and rulers are remembered, not for their arguments alone, but for the invisible power they projected, a psychological gravity that bends others to their will. And here is the lesson for you. Power is never merely a tool. It is a state of being. It is cultivated in silence, expressed in posture, and recognized in restraint. When wielded subtly, it shapes behavior without threats, without coercion, without argument. It forces compliance because people anticipate consequences, because they read the force in your manner. because the aura you project signals control before a word is spoken. Do not confuse noise with influence. Bluster and shouting do not create aura. Composure, clarity, and deliberate presence do. Strength does not announce itself. It radiates. And when it radiates, others bend not necessarily because they fear you, but because ignoring you becomes a risk they cannot take. Ask yourself now, when you enter a room, what do people feel? Do they sense hesitation or certainty? Do they see a shadow of someone capable or a reflection of their own indecision? Your aura is already speaking before you ever speak a single word. And the question emerges, if your presence can bend others, what deliberate steps will you take to sharpen it? To radiate not only power, but the inevitability of obedience. You have been told that honesty is a virtue, that truth is always respected, that the world admires the upright and punishes the deceitful. But the world is not so simple. In the absence of power, honesty becomes weakness. It is not seen as integrity, it is seen as naivety, vulnerability, or foolishness. Ask yourself, have you ever spoken the truth in a room and been ignored? Have you ever revealed your intentions only to be dismissed or exploited? Have you ever thought that virtue would protect you, only to discover it made you an easier target? This is the cruel law of human interaction. Truth carries weight only when it rides on strength. Without it, honesty is a whisper against the roar of ambition. Consider the great reformers of history. Socrates spoke relentlessly of truth and virtue. Yet, the democratic courts of Athens condemned him to death. He was not punished for lies, he was punished because his honesty threatened those with power, yet he had none to defend him. Truth without leverage is impotent. It provokes danger rather than commands respect. Even in modern observation, the same rule applies. A junior officer may expose corruption, revealing facts with impeccable accuracy. Do they receive applause? Rarely. They are labeled naive, reckless, or idealistic. Only when someone with authority repeats the same truth does it carry influence. Power transforms perception. The same words spoken by the powerless are dismissed. Spoken by the powerful, they become doctrine. And here is the subtlety few understand. Honesty alone never persuades. Human beings interpret signals, not content. If a weak voice presents truth, the listener asks, can this person enforce it? Can they alter reality? The answer is no. And so, honesty is recast as foolishness. Yet, if a commanding figure speaks with the same facts, suddenly the same words are revered, feared, or obeyed. Strength validates truth. Look at rulers who wielded brutal pragmatism. Elizabeth I executed those who opposed her, yet she was praised as wise. Why? Because she combined honesty of intention with absolute power. Her statements were not merely truthful, they were binding. The same sentiment, if uttered by a powerless courtier, would have invited mockery or reprisal. Even in personal life, this law governs silently. You confess your limits, admit your mistakes, speak openly of intentions, and often, people see only vulnerability. They do not calculate your wisdom, they calculate what advantage they can extract. Yet, someone with status or leverage delivers the same admission, and it becomes a lesson, a demonstration of credibility, a tool to shape perception. Power gives gravity to words. Without it, words fall flat, scattered in the wind. So the question arises, how do you speak truth when the world rewards only results backed by strength? The answer is deceptively simple. Acquire power first. Hone influence, cultivate authority, sharpen leverage. Only then does honesty command attention. Only then do facts become weapons instead of invitations. Only then does transparency serve as strategy rather than exposure. Consider it psychologically. Humans are pattern seekers. They test consistency against dominance. When the powerless speak truth, the mind reads it as a possibility, not a rule. When the powerful speak truth, it is read as inevitability. Perception bends to strength. Truth obeys influence. This is not a call to deceit, it is a call to preparation. Do not abandon honesty. Instead, Anchor it in power. Let your truth emerge as a force, not a plea. Let it shift the equilibrium rather than expose you to it. Timing, leverage, and presence transform honesty from vulnerability into authority. Ask yourself now, if your honesty is ignored, is it because of what you say or because of who you are? And if the latter, how will you change that reality? The powerless speak truth as a supplicant. The powerful speak truth as a ruler. And only the ruler shapes how the world interprets it. You desire respect. You crave influence. You hope that others will value you for who you are or what you say. But the world does not operate on hope or sentiment. People respect what they cannot afford to lose. Not what they admire, not what they like, not what they wish were true. Only what carries risk. Ask yourself, when do people truly hesitate? When do they alter their behavior, defer to your judgment, or adjust their plans? Is it because of loyalty? Is it because of admiration? Rarely. It is because they fear losing something essential: status, opportunity, comfort, or reputation. Consider the Medici family of Florence. Their influence was not merely derived from wealth, it was derived from leverage. They controlled access to power, patronage, and information. A rival who challenged them risked everything: alliances, commerce, even life itself. It was not the Medici's virtue or honesty that commanded respect, it was the danger of losing what they controlled. And this danger made respect inevitable. Now, look closer at human relationships. A partner respects you when the cost of losing you is clear. A colleague respects you when your absence would disrupt their plans. A subordinate respects you when their advancement depends on your favor. Power is measured not in what you take, but in what others cannot afford to let slip from your hands. Even in warfare, this principle is brutally obvious. Sun Tzu wrote, "The skillful leader makes the enemy dependent on him for their survival." A general who threatens nothing is ignored. A general who controls vital supply lines, strategic positions, or key intelligence becomes unavoidable. The respect and obedience of others is forced by the stakes they risk if they defy you. Loss is the greatest motivator, and fear of it the most reliable currency. Ask yourself, do people act differently when they believe nothing depends on you? Do they hesitate, seek your counsel, or honor your demands? Or do they walk past, indifferent, free from consequence? The powerless exist in that space. They speak, but the world moves on. They warn, but warnings fall like leaves on water. Only when what they control is precious does the current of attention shift to them. Consider modern business. A competitor respects your decisions when you control contracts, clients, or proprietary knowledge they cannot replace. A peer respects your negotiation because your approval or denial can advance or destroy their career. A team respects your leadership when their future depends on your strategy. Not because they like you, not because they trust you inherently, but because the cost of ignoring you is too high. This is the calculus most refuse to see. Respect is a risk assessment. It is not abstract admiration. It is not moral judgment. It is an evaluation. What will happen if I fail to heed this person? The answer determines behavior. And the answer is rooted in fear of loss. So, what must you cultivate to command respect? Not sentiment. Not goodwill. Not friendship, though these are convenient byproducts. You must cultivate leverage. Control what others value. Guard what they depend upon. And make them aware, subtly, that their fate is intertwined with your choices. When people perceive that they stand to lose, compliance follows naturally. When they perceive nothing at risk, even the most eloquent commands are ignored. History is a mirror of this law. Rulers who inspired awe did so because defiance carried cost. Alexander the Great's enemies respected him not because he was clever, but because armies fell and cities burned when he chose. Catherine de' Medici's adversaries feared losing influence, wealth, and life, which ensured her silent power behind the throne. Even today, in boardrooms and corridors of power, this principle operates invisibly. Respect is bought with stakes, not charm. Ask yourself now, what do people fear losing in relation to you? And how can you position yourself as the indispensable force whose absence would unsettle them? Leverage is invisible, yet irresistible. Fear of loss is the tool, and strategic minds wield it with precision. You have a plan, a goal, an ambition burning quietly inside you. You long to announce it, to share it, to claim it as if words alone could summon reality. But the world does not reward declarations, it punishes exposure. Until you acquire power, your intentions are weapons aimed at yourself. Ask yourself, how many times has someone revealed their plans too early, only to see them sabotaged? How often have you heard of a brilliant idea destroyed, not by competitors stronger, but by those who simply moved faster, controlled resources, or anticipated weakness? Every premature disclosure is an invitation for others to shape your fate before you have the means to shape it yourself. History offers grim lessons. Consider the conspirators against Julius Caesar. Some whispered their intentions, trusting allies who later faltered. Some plotted openly, revealing strategy in confidence, only to find it anticipated and undone. Caesar himself moved decisively, often in secret, allowing only the right moment to surface. Timing and leverage ensured success, and those who acted too soon perished. Look closer. Silence is a form of power. It creates ambiguity. It obscures vulnerability. It forces others to guess your intentions, to hesitate, to second-guess. The human mind abhors uncertainty, yet it responds to it predictably. It overestimates, it plans defensively, it yields to what it cannot measure. When you reveal too early, you give certainty to the wrong hands. When you wait, you turn uncertainty into leverage. Even in modern arenas, business, politics, personal strategy, the principle holds. A CEO announces a major acquisition only after securing capital, legal clearance, and alliances. A competitor who guesses too soon cannot intervene effectively. An employee who declares career ambitions without the backing of skill, influence, or timing risks exposure, ridicule, or sabotage. In every case, secrecy amplifies power. Revelation without power amplifies vulnerability. Psychology explains it further. Humans are pattern seekers, but they are impatient. They fear disadvantage, yet crave advantage. Reveal your intent too early, and they seize the advantage first. Delay, and they may act cautiously, overestimating your strength, or hesitating until your leverage crystallizes. Silence creates a psychological edge, a form of strategic invisibility. Look at Machiavellian rulers, generals, and tacticians. They cultivated silence as much as action. Cardinal Richelieu moved in shadows, consolidating influence, ensuring loyalty, eliminating threats before revealing the full scope of his designs. Napoleon concealed his intentions until every logistic and tactical element favored him. Alexander's campaigns depended on secrecy as much as swords. The strong reveal at the moment, their power ensures obedience. The weak reveal prematurely and invite disaster. Ask yourself now, have you ever announced a plan, only to find it opposed, undermined, or stolen? Have you trusted your audience to honor your vision without the means to enforce it? And did you learn from it or repeat the mistake? The lesson is clear. Power precedes revelation. Intentions, no matter how brilliant, are liabilities until the world fears the consequences of ignoring them. Speak too soon, and you give others the weapon of anticipation. Wait, cultivate strength, and your words become commands. Your timing becomes leverage. Your presence becomes decisive. And suddenly, what was once a fragile idea becomes an unstoppable force. Even subtle gestures count. A hint, a calculated pause, an indirect comment, these communicate influence without surrendering control. The prudent operator moves silently, letting the world fill gaps with speculation. The impatient reveal exposes gaps, and gaps invite exploitation. So, reflect. If your plan is sound, but your power insufficient, what is the wisest course? To announce it? Or to prepare silently, patiently, and deliberately? The powerless whisper dreams that vanish. The powerful reveal destiny at the precise moment obedience is guaranteed. The difference is the margin between survival and failure. And now the question becomes inevitable. If the world reacts to power, and silence shields intention, then when and how will you move so that respect, compliance, and influence follow naturally, leaving others unable to challenge your authority? The answer awaits in the strategy that turns patience into dominance and secrecy into irreversible advantage. Power is rarely seen. It moves in silence, shapes decisions, and bends wills before a word is spoken. Those who control others openly may win battles, but the subtle strategist controls the battlefield itself. Influence is invisible. Respect is earned before it is demanded. Intentions revealed too soon invite interference. Strength unexhibited invites disregard. Truth without leverage is dismissed. Ask yourself, who truly holds the upper hand in every encounter you face? Is it the one who shouts their ideals, or the one who allows others to misjudge their capability until it is too late? The mind that anticipates, the hand that waits, the voice that commands only when power ensures obedience, this is mastery. This is the law of human behavior. This is the path from insignificance to unchallenged authority. Now, reflect. How will you wield your influence? What will you conceal until the moment it transforms reality? Comment your thoughts below. Subscribe for more strategies that the world does not openly teach. Share this video and let the silent power of knowledge ripple outward.